All right, what is up, guys? So in today's video, I'm going to tell you the harsh truth about getting lean. The truth is that I was trying to get lean and shredded for probably about 4 to 5 years, but really within only like the last year or two was I actually able to achieve it. So what that meant was for the first 2 to 3 years of my fitness journey, I was pretty much just spinning my wheels with this goal of getting lean, but never able to achieve it. And so if you're somebody who's also been trying to get in shape for a long time, but just hasn't been able to get to where you want to be, I understand how frustrating it is. So in today's video, I'll tell you exactly what the harsh truths are, but also how I was able to overcome them. And the truth is that overcoming a few of these obstacles is pretty simple. So I'll share that with you today, and I'll explain exactly how you can do it as well. All right, guys, and I like to show this in all of my videos. So this is what I used to look like a few years ago. You can see I had a pretty average physique. I was a little bit overweight, didn't have a whole lot of muscle mass on me. And I tried getting into shape for quite a while, but like I said, there were just a few things that held me back. But through just a few very basic principles, I was able to completely transform my body. You see, I was able to drop a lot of body fat, gain quite a bit of muscle, and in today's video, I'll tell you exactly how you can do it too. All right, guys, so there's gonna be 3 main things that we're gonna talk about today. 3 things that were big obstacles for me that really held me back from making progress, but eventually I was able to flip the switch and get past these obstacles, and that's really when I started to see progress. So I figured if I could share these obstacles with you and how I was able to get past them, then you will be able to save some time and not have to spend a bunch of time circling back and forth and spinning your wheels like I did. And so the first obstacle that we want to be prepared for, guys, is just the fact that our diet is going to need to change. If you're overweight, then it's likely that you've been eating a lot of processed foods for most of your life. At least that was the case for me. And I would say that processed foods are probably the biggest problem that are keeping people stuck. I think that if you fix your diet and just remove processed foods, that alone will fix about 80 to 90% of the problem for most people. But the fact is that's just going to require a lifestyle change. If you're used to eating processed foods, if you're used to these high dopamine foods that give you a lot of pleasure, then switching over to a cleaner diet is going to feel like a lifestyle change. And that's something that I had to get used to, right? Like I had to actually be prepared to switch over from a processed food diet to a healthy diet, which felt like a big change because for the first time ever, I was like, oh, wow, this is actually what it feels like to eat a good diet, and you kind of miss that large dopamine release. It's like quitting anything that's addictive, whether it's cigarettes or vaping or whatever. You understand what it's like to have to give up something that gives you a lot of pleasure, but you realize that it's in pursuit of something that's good for you. And the same thing is true with giving up a processed diet. And if you've ever heard of the phrase burn the boats, the idea is that once you get to battle, once you hit land, that you actually burn the boats. And the whole idea behind that is that there's no exit strategy, pretty much. So it's an idea that we'll get rid of the exit strategy. It's a full commitment. And the reason why I recommend the burn the boat strategy is because if you leave a psychological quote unquote out for yourself, you'll likely take it when things get difficult. So, if you have this in the back of your mind, well, I can quit this diet if I want to, then when things get hard, and you're hungry and you are having cravings, then you have that psychological out and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to quit the diet now. And that is ultimately what causes people to yo-yo back and forth between being on a diet and then regaining a bunch of weight and not really seeing any progress, which, again, the reason I bring it up is because that's where I was for years. And if the idea of having a full commitment to a healthy diet seems a little bit intimidating, I understand. But here's the deal. As somebody who has been through that and seen the other side, believe me when I say it absolutely gets easier with time. Just like any sort of habit, the first time that you do it is always the hardest, but as you just reacclimate to that and adapt, it gets a lot easier as time goes on because there is always just a little bit of friction between a bad formed habit that you're used to and then trying to switch that over to a new good habit. There's always going to be a little bit of friction for that. But the good news is once you come out on the other side, trust me when I say you really don't want to go back. Like if I could choose to switch to have my old body and eat the stuff that I used to be eating, I would absolutely not do it because I like my lifestyle and the way that I feel a lot better now after switching those habits. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is hunger. I know that this might be a section where a lot of people are like, yeah, you're cutting, you're going to be hungry, duh. But for me, I actually really wish somebody would have told me about this. I wish I knew this at the beginning, but you should be prepared to be hungry during a weight loss period. And that's how I know that I used to be a fat ass, guys, is when I was overweight, I was not used to experiencing consistent hunger. So when I actually first started cutting and first starting losing weight, and I had these like pretty consistent, hunger signals, I was like, holy crap, I was just totally not prepared for it, because all of my life when I was hungry, if I ever felt hungry, which I rarely did, I just would eat a bunch of food. And I normally didn't feel hungry at all because I was just eating so many calories every single day that hunger just wasn't this thing that I was used to. So when I first started getting into a consistent deficit, I was like, holy crap, this is what it's like to actually feel hungry. So if you're somebody who's been overweight your whole life, just understand that it's totally natural to feel hungry. It's not this bad thing. It's actually a good sign, because it means that you're in an actual calorie deficit. When you're in a calorie deficit, your body has very fine-tuned mechanisms internally to understand when you're in a calorie deficit. So that's why it releases hunger signaling. So in a way, it's actually a good sign of progress when you're hungry. But here's something that I wish somebody would have told me is hunger does not mean you have to eat. I always thought that if I was hungry, that meant that I had to go get food. I had to go eat. But that is just not the case at all. A matter of fact, it's in those moments that you're hungry, that if you're able to push through that and not eat, that's when the calorie deficit actually works and you start to lose weight. So just be prepared that when you're in a deficit, you're going to feel hungry. That's okay. And that's why I believe that whole clean foods are so important, because we want to use our limited calories that we're eating every day wisely with quality food. We don't want to fill up our limited calories with a bunch of processed junk food. We want to actually put good fuel into our body so that the limited calories that we are using are actually going to building muscle and running our body well and supporting healthy hormone balance and all that good stuff. So the things that I like to eat a lot, it's very, very simple. I eat things like high protein animal meats, fruits, veggies, dairy, all that good stuff. And now I know I also get a lot of questions about, well, what about like the specific diet? What about like the day-to-day, exactly what to eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And also, like, what about the specific workouts? Well, if you're interested in that, guys, I actually just wrote an entire book called The Aesthetic Protocol. It's literally everything I know about fitness just put into one book. I spent a ton of time on it, but it's only the price of a couple cups of coffee. And I guarantee you, if you read through that, absorb the information, it will completely change your life and completely change your physique. So go check that out in the description down below. But then the other thing too, guys, is we want to make sure that we have the light at the end of the tunnel mindset. A calorie deficit isn't going to be forever. It's only while we're trying to lose weight. And eventually we will hit our goal weight, and we will be able to not have to be in a calorie deficit anymore. So for me, it was like this really like never ending process, what it seemed like. And that was really intimidating until eventually I just set a time period, and I was like, okay, for this amount of time, I'm going to spend in a calorie deficit. I'm going to lose 1 pound of fat per week. And then I know losing 1 pound of fat per week, this is when I can end the deficit. And so it really just kind of created like, okay, this is just a temporary period of time, which really helped me a lot mentally. And then the last thing, guys, that I think would be really beneficial, one of the harsh truths about getting lean, is that we want to have a strong why. In my opinion, I think you need something a little bit more than you want to look good. At least for most people. If you're anything like how I used to be when I was younger and you just want to look good because you just want to get chicks and whatever, then maybe just looking good is a good enough why. But if you're maybe a little bit older and you're looking for a really solid reason to get lean and get into great shape, for most people, you're going to need a little bit more than just that you want to look good. So some good examples of a strong why would be getting healthy for your family. If you have a wife, if you have kids, you want to be around for the long term. You want to be able to be healthy through your whole life so that you can take care of your family. That is a great example of a good, strong why for getting healthy. For me, my why at this moment has been a lot to do with my future family. I don't have kids yet, but I actually think a lot about my future kids and future wife. And one of the big things is I want my kids to be raised in a healthy environment. I didn't really have that growing up. I was eating a lot of junk food and processed food when I was a kid, so it felt very much like an uphill battle. But I remember seeing certain friends of mine when I was a kid who they just kind of ate healthy, and almost processed food and eating consistent junk food was just foreign to them. Like they were just very used to a healthy diet. And I really want that for my kids to just be deeply ingrained in them, that it's a good thing to be in shape. It's a good thing to eat healthy so that they can pass that on to their kids and so on. So for me, that's a very strong why as to why I want to be in great shape right now. Or maybe if you're just training for a specific sport or training for a specific goal. Again, it's just finding a deep why that will sustain you during hard times. One of my favorite books that I read recently was called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. But that was a really good one because he talks about, he relates it a lot to business, but, business has the same principles as fitness and so on. And he talks about whenever you're going to achieve a goal, you want to start with the why, because that is ultimately what's going to define your purpose, and then you can build out from there. So in this fitness journey, start with a good, strong why, and then you can build out from there, because a strong why is going to sustain you during adversity. When you are hungry, when you are having cravings, if you have a strong why, then you can see through the noise. You can sustain your discipline even during the difficult moments. And this was just kind of what I was thinking about when I drew this, but you know, the noise goes down and the purpose increases when you have a strong why. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much the 3 things that really helped me get lean and get over those initial hurdles. I hope that this video was helpful for you. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Guys, we're over 1,000 subscribers now, so we actually hit our 1,000 subscriber goal earlier than expected, so thank you so much for that. The next goal is 10,000 subscribers. I want to get that by the end of the year, guys. That's our new goal date, is December 31st, 10,000 subs. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. Leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.